So today our topic is data types. Every value in JavaScript has a type. It tells the computer what kind of data it is dealing with and what you are allowed to do with it. You can add two numbers together, but you cannot multiply a word by a sentence. The type is what makes that distinction. JavaScript splits its data types into two big families, primitive data types and non-primitive, or also called reference types. Today is all about primitives, the simple fixed building blocks everything else is made from. Now in JavaScript we have 7 different primitive data types, and all of them are listed on your screen. The first one is called string. A string is basically a text, and in order to write a string we just wrap our text inside quotes. It could be single or double quotes. We will talk about the string more in detail in this video. The second primitive type is number. Any numeric value, whole number, decimal, integer, negative numbers, all of them lies in just number. The third one is Boolean. A Boolean is a very simple data type and it can only contain true or false. The fourth primitive data type is undefined. For example, we declare a variable, but we have not initialized it, so its default value is going to be undefined. The fifth primitive data type is null. You are explicitly saying no value here. And there is a difference between null and undefined, which we will talk about later. The other two data types are big int and symbol. For number that are too large for a regular number type, we can use big int for that. And for the symbol, it's a unique identifier. It is used in advanced code and you won't really need it early on when you're starting with JavaScript. So what we can say about primitive data types is that they are simple, single value, and cannot be broken down further. Okay, so now let's talk about strings. Strings deserve extra attention here because you will use them constantly. Names, messages, URLs, anything that is text-based is basically a string. Now there are 3 ways to create a string. The first one is using a single take. So for example, I say let A is equal to Hisan. And I can also use double quotes for this as well. So let B is equal to Hisan as well. And this will also work. Now there is another way which is called using backticks. So backticks are basically these symbols on your keyboard and you can write the string inside here as well. And they all work, but backticks are special. I will talk about it in a minute. The single and double quotes works identically. Pick one and stay consistent throughout your code. Now why I say backticks are special? Because they let you embed variables directly into the string. What this means is that in order to use a variable value inside or with a string, we can use backtick syntax. And how that works is, for example, let's say I set a variable name and I set it to Hisan. And now when I try to print hello and I want to use a variable value here, I cannot use that inside double quotes or single quotes. So I cannot do something like this because this is going to print hello name. But what I can do is, instead of double quotes, I can use backticks and wrap it inside the curly braces with a dollar. And here I can use the variable value. So now if I hit enter, you can see I can print hello Hisan. Now this is also called template literal as well. And this allows us to use variable values directly along with the strings. Now there are some common string methods you will use early on. And right now you will be thinking, what are methods? So there are some methods provided by JavaScript on strings, numbers, and we can use these methods to basically perform our task quickly rather than writing up everything ourselves. So for example, we need to find out what is the length of this string. So I say let value is equal to hello Hisan. And I want to know how many characters are there inside this string. So what I can do is I can just simply call a method, and in order to invoke a method you need to use the syntax of dot and then name of the method, which is length. So you can see there are 11 characters inside this string. Now similar to length we have 2 uppercase and 2 lowercase. So let me actually show you this. Value dot 2 uppercase And what it does is it is basically going to transform all the characters into an uppercase. And similar to uppercase, we have lowercase. And what it does is exactly the opposite of the to uppercase method. Now, apart from these, we also have some other methods as well that we are going to use very often in our code. And one of that is includes. So let's say we want to check if our string contains something. So for example, I want to check if my value variable contains Hassan. So what I can do is value dot include, and I can enter the value here. So Hassan, and you can see it returns true, which means the value does exist. If it doesn't exist, let's say Hassan1, it will return false. So these are the Boolean types. So we will talk about them, but these are some of the methods that we are going to use very often. Now actually there is one more method that I want to show you, and that is called trim. So we often see that we have empty spaces up front or at the end of the string. So let's say I set this to a variable name A. Actually, let's say ABC, or maybe name 2. So I have this variable and its value contains a lot of spaces up front. Now if I print this, you can see there is space up front. Now there is a method called trim, and what it does is it trims down the empty spaces and it gives us the result. So you can see now we don't have the empty spaces that we had initially. So this is also a very helpful method that we can use. These are some of the built-in methods that JavaScript provides us, and we don't have to build them on our own. So this is for the easy of the developer. Now that is enough to know about strings for now, and let's talk about numbers and booleans.